Welcome back to another episode of Business Breakthroughs. I'm delighted to be joined by fine art photographer Jarrod Oram. He is known for transforming the overlooked into the unforgettable. His large-scale works evoke memory, stillness, and presence, each piece a portal into quiet beauty found in the everyday. He has a background in visual storytelling and a deep intuitive process. He's able to capture images that feel familiar as well as transcendent at the same time. And when you see his work, if you haven't already, that describes it so perfectly. His photography invites people to slow down, look again, and feel something they didn't know they were missing. His work is found in hotels, commercial, and hospitality spaces, as well as collectors' homes around the world. Welcome, Jarrod.
Thank you, Coach Julie. That was a
Yes.
lot of word salad on what I do.
But it's Jared and I, in working together, I often tell him, you have this beautiful way of putting things into words that sounds like poetry, where sometimes in our sessions I'm like, can you say that again? And I can record it. It's just so powerful. So an artist with words, an artist in visual as well. But thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know you have a very busy schedule coming up. So I'm delighted to talk with you and have you share some of your story with our listeners, and
Yeah,
especially with the creatives in understanding business and creative can, in fact, go together. So
yeah.
thank you. My first question is, you've been in business now 3 years, so it's still fairly new, and in some worlds it might be still considered a startup, which with the growth that we've seen, that's not necessarily how I would personally define it at this point.
Right.
Tell our listeners, what were your goals when you started your photography business and have those changed in the past few years?
Yeah, so the goals, in the beginning, this wasn't even a business. This was something that was going to be on the side while I was in my previous career of branding and marketing. And this was just going to be something that could pay for travel.
Mhm.
And then in March of 2021, I did my first show. My therapist told me to put prices on it, make me really uncomfortable on my pieces.
Mhm.
I did. I sold 3 pieces, and I was like, wow, okay, this can still be a thing. Um, and I was still trying to navigate my previous career. I kept feeling the bumps and obstacles, but I was like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And the universe kept saying, well, why don't you just keep
Mhm.
pursuing this?
Mhm.
And so in September of 2022, I left my full-time job, and the photography side still wasn't a full-blown idea.
Mhm.
The goals in it were, I'll consult, but then I can do this, and this can pay for travel and some investment.
Mhm.
But then I was doing an email content strategy for a healthcare company, and I was like, what am I doing?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so the goals of going full time in September of 2023, was can I match the living that I had?
Mhm.
Uh, which was okay,
Mhm.
but I always lived in a world of okay, even though there's this idea in me that's wanted more,
Mhm.
that stop of like, no, this is what you're relegated to.
Mhm.
This is your role. This is your spot.
Mhm.
Uh, thank goodness there was a willingness to reach beyond that, because at that time I was like, no, I want something. If I'm doing this, I'm not going to go back into a settling world.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'd already worked out in a lot of places in family and relationships and friends and all these other different areas of just unleashing
Yeah.
in a really positive way,
Mhm.
blowing it open to, you know, to dispel past notions and, this pre-wired things, and to really just be like, no, this is the life I have. This is what I'm going to create.
Being
And
all
so
in.
really in a really quick time, like it went from just that to then being like, oh no, like today you and I share the word, but like zenith is the word.
Mhm.
And how I want my work to not only find its way within collectors' homes, but in galleries and showrooms all around the world,
Mhm.
and how it connects with people and how it relates to people, but it's very simple in the fact, and in something that you feel who I am within it,
Yes.
you know, to create a lifestyle that I didn't really even know existed.
Mm-hmm. So in that process, how have your goals changed since then? Since you first started, you're like, I'm all in. We're going to see where this goes. I'm going to put the past behind.
Well, they changed in the fact that I created goals.
Mhm. That's a great first step.
Yeah, but it was, from a revenue side
Mhm.
of, and looking at the data of the first year of it full time and being profitable
Mhm.
uh, within the first year,
Mhm.
uh, and a pretty good profit for that, which was like, holy smokes. So the data was there.
Mhm.
So, the revenue goals and the profit margin goals
Mhm.
have changed from, well, if we can be at 150 a year, that's fine. And because that's what I knew. And then within the second year, we did 275, um, and into this year. And so the revenue goals have changed, the profit goals have changed, the infrastructure of the business
Mhm.
has changed.
Mhm.
The type of team that I want, the type of clients that
Mhm.
I want, those goals have changed.
And partners.
Vendors,
Mhm.
of really truly creating, a business model of a, you know, commercial profitable enterprise that works without me.
Mhm.
So, my goals within the role of of this company has changed. I'm
Mhm.
not trying to get out of the way of everything and really just focusing on, the areas of front facing with clients,
Mhm.
of creative and closing.
Yeah.
And then everything else leave up to. So then that leaves all this time and energy for me to get in this space and creation you know, to really find the right audiences and grow.
Mhm. Well, and early on, you were very intentional about looking at where do you, Jarrod, the owner, the CEO, bring the most value to the organization, and looking at leaving the rest, right? Staying in your lane. And
Right.
what is it that you could be delegating, and what does that look like? And in that process, well, I guess if you wouldn't mind sharing your process in going through that and how you prepared to be able to delegate instead of trying to hold on to everything.
I mean, the only way I was able to prepare is to put it into practice and look at it have a zoom out perspective to see, like, is my time being best spent? If my hourly rate, let's say, is $250 an hour,
Mhm.
you know, is my time best spent in adding these QR codes to the back of my website?
Mhm. Your coach
And
says no.
no, and I was at a place where, even in my previous career of, like, in my management and leadership style of, hone in on what it is you do best,
Mhm.
and let's find others to do these areas. And
Mhm.
so, I have a degree. I mean, I have a background in branding and marketing. There's always been a visual storytelling side. And so, in order to go, attract and nurture high-end commission projects with collectors, to
Mhm.
begin to, nurture and grow relationships with interior designers, to do the same with galleries and showrooms around the country and around the world.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't need to be in the back end of creating these lists,
Yes. Mhm.
helping the messaging with it, absolutely.
Sure.
As as a as an individual brand, the voice is an absolute connector to the visual.
Mhm.
And so, that's definitely one of working within that. But I mean, even right now, like, so I have a show in a week and a half, and I just sent over to my studio manager all the QR code information, all the catalog information that she's going to create, all that. I'm
Mhm.
going out of town to meet with new vendors and new exhibitors, and then I come back in for the show the following week.
Yeah.
And so I don't need to be sitting around building a
On
visual
your
catalog.
desk. Yes. Hmm. Yeah.
You know, I
Hmm.
need to be in a place where there are hundreds of exhibitors and showrooms from around the country that I can build relationships with
Hmm.
so that I can have 12 to 15 partners around this country,
Hmm.
that are collaborative and joyful and see the work and get it and get excited and put that in front of their customers and
Hmm.
sell it for
Hmm. Hmm. Well, and knowing that early, right? The fact that you looked at where do I bring the business the most value? Where's my time best spent? How
them.
can I get in front of more people? And it's not sitting behind the desk. So looking
Right.
at it and understanding your numbers, right? So
Yes.
revenue, yes, but profit and investing back in the business and being able to hire your studio manager to be able to do that.
Yeah. And then also knowing exactly who it is that I'm speaking to.
Hmm.
Um, I can't speak for a lot of businesses. I can speak from the artist side. Then
Yeah.
a lot of times I think people at first are like, "Oh, hey, little kiddo, you're selling some pictures. Good job." And it's like, then they quickly realize that it's a business.
Yes.
Um, and that, I know what my acquisition cost is. I know what my leads are. I know what my conversion rate is. I
Hmm.
know what my margins are, and I know who my audiences are.
Hmm.
I think a lot of times I mentor, like, a lot of artists come to me because they're like, "How are you doing this?" I'm like, "Well, a lot of it is a lot of crazy mojo stuff that I sit from a meditation side, but we can get that to another point." But
Yeah.
I said I determined very early who my target audiences were.
Hmm.
And I that's who I market to. That's who I speak to. That's who I message to.
Hmm.
I had a mentor early on tell me, like, "Jarrod, there are more people out there that'll spend $20,000 on a product than will spend $2,000 on a product." And I was like, "Go
Hmm.
on."
Hmm. Hmm.
And I know that it takes just the same amount of time
Hmm.
investment to sell the 20,000 as it does the 2,000.
Sure.
I think I'll focus on the former
Hmm.
in that way. So knowing that, understanding their pain points, understanding that I am providing them something that is exclusive,
Hmm.
something that they haven't seen before, something that gives them emotion, and
Yes.
that emotion is usually joy.
Hmm.
And so it's a very personal brand
Hmm.
because it is as I view the world, and then I'm sharing that with people, and then can people connect with that?
Hmm.
And when I have an idea of who those people are, then it can resonate even further.
Hmm. When you mentioned, having multiple target audiences, right? Which ultimately we've defined as different revenue streams is a resiliency strategy. It's a business resiliency strategy. So it's a longevity strategy in business because
Yes.
over time, right, there's things that could be happening that we have no control over. But at the same time, if you have multiple revenue streams, you don't have all of your eggs in one basket, but also spending the time in strategy to better understand who those people are, where are they, what is the right message for them is huge and the best and time well spent in strategy.
100%. I mean, we realized last year that, I had this partnership with a showroom and they were selling quite a bit,
Mhm.
which was fantastic. And that was really the only partnership from a showroom side that I had. So we saw the value in that
Mhm.
and the fear of, like, I don't want
Their
all of
eggs are in
this
the
in
basket.
one.
Yep. Mhm.
What
Mhm.
happens if they turn over, sales staff? What if their philosophy changes? What if they're not bringing in artists a different way? There's
Yeah.
so many different things that are beyond my control
Mhm.
that we quickly assessed, like, okay, like, and I also thought it was going to be from just like an art gallery side.
Mhm.
And then, for the most part, that's a model that doesn't align with my vision and where to go.
Yeah.
And so, the goal, you know, right now is, finding showrooms such as the one that
Mhm.
has sold an incredible amount, have great amount of data from that,
Yeah.
of finding that store within every major city in the
Mhm.
country.
Mhm.
And so I would much rather have 15 places
Mhm.
selling a piece a month than one place selling
Mhm.
15 pizzas a month.
Yep.
And so, yes, that resiliency strategy
Mhm.
coming into play
Yep.
for sure.
and the zenith, right? Your vision of being the zenith in your industry, and that's not without its like as you think about, and we talk often about where you're headed, and it's not without its our minds getting in our way, our
Oh
hearts
my
getting in our
gosh.
way. So, and for listeners, Jarrod and our conversations and our coaching sessions, like I said, he's a wordsmith, but they're always very powerful because Jarrod does talk through and walk through what's going on up here and what's going on in here. And I think that's often difficult for business owners to understand that other people go through that too, right? Whatever we see on social media and everybody's successes and people winning awards and things like that. Well, it's not without the hard stuff and the past coming in sometimes, or our self-doubt. And so I would ask if you could share some sort of nugget with our listeners. How do you work through self-doubt and moving through mindset shifts so that you can continue forward in building this business and continuing to do what you love to do?
Yeah, no, it's a daily practice. Because some days I feel like I'm skipping on a sunbeam with Jesus, and then other days I'm just like, this business is done. Like we are just pack all this up. Let's get out of here because, dude, you are no longer relevant. And it can go from zero to that in 0.2 seconds sometimes because our minds are wonderful manipulators and
Ah, being human.
oh, we can people the you know what out of
Yeah.
our brains.
Yeah.
But no, I mean for me it's can I recognize what it is that I'm feeling?
Mm,
Can I look when we get quiet, it can get really loud up here. And then can we be with that? Can I be with that to see like what is really going on here?
yeah.
And that can be so tough, so
Hmm.
many times. So can I recognize what exactly is happening? And I'm just like, am I angry? Am I frustrated? Am I jealous? And then can I allow it to happen? You
Yeah.
know, can
Hmm.
I allow it to just flow through? All emotions are just points of energy anyway. And
Hmm.
I think emotions
Energy in
sometimes,
motion. Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Hmm.
And so can I allow it to just, you know, flow through?
Hmm.
And then can I get curious about what it was about that? From a business side, it can be like, look, there's things that I'm doing that I've never done before in my life,
Hmm.
and 48 plus years of life, I'm experiencing things for the first time. So yeah, it's gonna feel gnarly,
Yeah. It's uncomfortable. Growth is
really
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then can I nurture that?
Hmm.
Can I nurture that? And then move past beyond that? What we were talking about just a couple of days ago of my world is in the shift of, I'm in one place in the seeker side of still like this learning, proving, doing, comparing place,
Hmm.
and one in like this like sovereign mystic side of like clearly knowing, embodying, creating from the inevitability.
Yeah.
It's like, and that leap isn't about a better strategy.
Hmm.
We can theorize it all we want, but like it's gonna be about collapsing that energy of like waiting
Yeah.
and replacing it with leading.
Hmm.
And I don't believe in the fake it till you make it. I'm
Yeah.
like, what if you just created motions tied to these insanely outlandish goals and you
Hmm.
create those because you can't achieve them right now. So create something that you can't, but attach emotions to that and
Hmm.
then feel those emotions attached to it so that you're living it.
Right.
You're just embodying it.
Hmm.
And then can we walk of knowing that the things that we have set out, they're in place.
Hmm.
Can we walk to them and have that trust?
Right. Taking and continuing to be in motion and take action
Yes.
and um, keeping one foot in front of the other.
And
Hmm.
sometimes it is a trudge in mud,
Yes.
uphill,
Uh-huh.
barefoot,
Yes.
3 miles away on the way to school
In the snow, just like my
in the
dad.
snow. Right.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing that. There's been some powerful shifts in our work together, and I appreciate that you have shared that space with me. And I would be curious if you wouldn't mind sharing with our listeners also, there's been some money mindset shifts. And with so many business owners, it happens. It happened with myself in my first
Yeah,
business. I'm bringing in seven figures, but I'm paying myself $50,000 a year. And I had to work through that and have some money mindset shifts and start to learn about money. And it was uncomfortable. And that's part of one of my favorite things that I get to do with my clients.
yeah,
And so if you wouldn't mind just sharing, your some of your shifts that have happened with money
for
and
sure.
maybe where you were versus where you are now.
I've done a lot of change in like growth in a lot of parts of my life. And then I didn't really realize one of the most recent things of understanding was this sense of financial shame
Yes.
that I grew up with.
Mhm.
Regardless of what it was or anything, that is what tied to me. I didn't realize how crippling it was.
Mm.
And so even throughout like my corporate career, it was, I will just settle. Something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And, and I stayed on this very just like,
Mhm.
just not a lot of growth,
Mhm.
even though there was a desire, but like not knowing how to ask, not knowing how to embody that,
Yeah.
stuck in this prevailing mindset. And so, and getting into this and then getting really clear on, no, like these are the areas that I want from a financial freedom side.
Mhm.
And like even saying that at the first was just like my soul was just like, but wait, like it was suffocating.
It's great.
Um,
Yeah.
and
I
still
think, I think
saying,
many
okay, just
people
do,
are feel that for sure.
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
I mean, and like,
Mhm.
so, having a year where it's something that I just create that all of a sudden I just matched, the first year I matched like the salary, my highest salary that I ever had. And
Mhm.
it was doing it on my terms
Mhm.
with my mindset, with my values, with my philosophy. And then, then last year of just being like, wait, like this can happen. And then getting with you to understand of God, this fear of holding on to it now. Like,
Mhm.
holy smokes, this year's a little slower than last year. And I'm like, oh, like I'm an old lady clutching her pearls. I'm just like,
Mhm.
of and putting things in place over time.
Mhm.
I worked in this world for so long that it was so reactive. I was like, you got to do this now. You got to do this now. You got to do this now. And I would ask the question, why? And not a standpoint of not wanting to do the thing, but of like, what are we trying to achieve?
Yes.
And does it have to be done now? I've
Mhm.
just learned through life that it is through experience. And I hit thresholds, and having you as a coach, I can come up with this feeling like, hey, what happens with this?
Mhm.
Well, Jared, let's set aside and let's create an emergency account for you. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I had two accounts. I had a savings account and a checking account,
Yeah. Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and, I'm okay with saying that. Even admitting that, a year ago was just like, oh, I'm so far behind. I can't believe I'm like this. You
Mhm.
know, I don't have this 401k and all. And what we've done in a short period of time, but with intention and with just easy actionable steps of creating that account. The company, it was a sole proprietorship.
Mhm.
Uh, Made a ton of money last year. Not a lot of tax benefits for sole proprietors.
Mhm.
Holy crap. Let's get into an S corp. The
Mhm.
accountant tells me after the fact, if you're an S corp, you can save this amount of money. I'm like, good to know now.
Thanks.
Awesome. But I'm like, okay, let
Yeah.
me do these things.
Mhm.
You would have told me 2 years ago that, Jared, you're going to be setting up an S corp so you can have a payroll service that can pay you because it's going to be this, this, and this. And I was like, no way, dude. I
Mhm.
just want to take some photos and like be able to maybe fly to New York City for it.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
in July, I'm doing this 2 week trip through England and Morocco.
Mhm.
Getting to go to British Grand Prix, the
Mhm.
F1. That like that was one of the things that we had you know, on the list when I signed up with you.
Yep.
My
Mhm.
partner and I were taking our girls to London and seeing Billie Eilish, and then we're seeing Oasis up in Manchester. And I mean, I'm just like, you
Yep.
know, and then I get to, photograph this part of the world and show it in ways that people haven't seen,
Mhm.
that'll go into exhibits and collections,
Yep.
um, that I don't even know what it's going to be.
Mhm.
And,
So everyone
you
watch for those coming up summer
know,
2025. Depending on when
so,
you're watching this. Yeah. Yep.
of even with projections off this year comparative to last year, there's also a lot of like building in ways that are it's not find work and do work.
Mhm.
And that's what a lot of businesses can get stuck into. A lot of artists can be like,
Get
I
the
need to find
client for the
someone
client. Get
and
the
sell the
client for the
piece.
client. Yep.
Find someone and sell the piece.
Yep.
And so it's a lot more sustainable. And, from the money side, there's still that place of like, it's a daily thing of taking a breath and being like, dude, you're good.
Mhm.
You're good.
And you continue to set yourself up to be good and set the business up to be good
Yes.
so that you can continue. There's a lot of work that you did last year in preparing for anything, right? You're preparing for growth, continuing to grow, but also learning these new skills around money and every dollar has a job and
Yep.
moving through that. So I appreciate you sharing that with everybody and looking at your money stories and when they come up and recognizing them and learning new skills, which gives you the confidence in doing and executing and new behaviors. So,
And I've just learned over time, whether it's personal, whether it was, professional, of getting the reps in. So I do a step, I get a result, there's an esteemable thing that hits,
yes.
and then I can build off that to then all of a sudden that becomes a routine, and then that just becomes the thing.
Mhm. Yep. Great. Well, thank you again, Jarrod. And
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind sharing with people, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, no. I'm being the face and name of the business. It's easy to Google.
Mhm.
Jarrod Oram, Jarrodoram. There's the website, there's the Instagram.
Mhm.
Uh, those are my two main messaging places.
Mhm.
Uh, it can still be a challenge of trying to sell a 60 by 40 frame print off an Instagram square.
Mhm.
So the connection point can happen with that. The beauty is, whether you're in the industry or a collector, if there's interest, there is no hesitation of me, especially uh, if you're out of the state of Texas. If you're in the state of Texas, I come visit you. If
Mhm.
you're out of the state of Texas, I come visit you. So
Mhm.
for me, nurturing those relationships and building those relationships is where the true magic happens.
Mhm. Great. Awesome. Well, please go and check out his work if you haven't already. And we look forward to seeing what you continue to create. And also on his social, it's really great because he will share the stories behind the pieces, which again are very powerful and ties to such emotion. So, Jarrod, appreciate your time and wisdom. And I'll see you soon. And thanks everybody for being here. Take
Thanks,
care.
Coach Julie.